grave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land. Monsters lurking in the night.
It's time to take a look at my favorite D20 retro clone, Dungeon Crawl Classic, and the company that makes it, Goodman Games. It's going to be very hard for me to say anything bad about Goodman Games because I just love Dungeon Crawl Classic and Mutant Crawl Classic so much, but I will try and be unbiased, or as unbiased as it can be. In case you're new here, we are dedicating the entire month of February to looking at game companies that don't get enough attention because we're already obsessing with what's going on with that company up north. But I promised to take a month off, and I slipped a little, but for the most part, I haven't really talked about Wizards of the Stupid. Instead, I've tried to shine a light at some of the other companies out there. I don't know how well a job I'm doing, but it's nice to know for the one or two people out there who are really curious that there are other companies. So let's see what's going on with Goodman Games, makers of Dungeon Crawl Classic and Mutant Crawl Classic. So we've got a nice looking page. We've got what's going on with their new Kickstarters. We've got stuff about their different main titles. Right now they're doing this Adventures on the Purple Planet and Beyond, which is sort of a new campaign setting for Dungeon Crawl Classic. Very, retro future, 1960s, 1970s, Mars. There's technology, there's magic, there's alien planets, there's lots of Flash Gordon type stuff, harkening back to the pulp era of science fiction, fantasy, and just wackiness. Adding, of course, also the Appendix N random table 1980s weirdness, Ardo and Grimoire homage that is Dungeon Crawl Classic. A lot of probably the reason why I love Dungeon Crawl Classic so much is because of the wacky random tables, which is probably the same reason, because I loved Ardo and Grimoire, and I loved that wacky random play style that we had in the West Coast Grognard that I played, and the people I played with played that style. That was my 70s and 80s and 90s. So yeah. So let's see what's going on. We've got their shop now. We've got resources. We've got the About Us. Do they have a news? No. They've got some free, you get a free quick start, plus their stuff for things. A guy looks like they're doing a homage to Miss Andrea Norton, one of the first ladies of science fiction. They've got a game coming out called Isle of the Amazons. That's by our friends over at Bloat Games. That's being kickstarted right now. The latest new notes on the conventions they're visiting. They're doing the Lankmar. They are one of the people that's doing Lankmar stuff. They've got the Dungeon Crawl Classic Lankmar setting, Lankmar, a legendary setting, the legendary city of Lankmar, which of course is Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, I believe, right? Isn't it? Yeah, isn't Lankmar, or is Lankmar Thieves' World? No, I think it's Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, like Lankmar, right? But actual news of what's going on or products coming out, convention schedule, awards, tournament submissions, newsletter. Here we go. Join the Goodman Games newsletter. Join the road crew. Sign up for the playtest group. That doesn't tell me what you're doing. It's to I guess the only thing they're really working on right now is Adventures on the Purple Planet and the Isle of Amazons, and of course the regular adventures and the zero level funnels. I love zero level funnels, which is another reason why I love Dungeon Crawl Classic. I love the idea of starting with 4 blank character sheets, or 4 very basic, or even like 4 or 6 zero level normal dudes who for some reason go on an adventure by hook or by crook, usually because it's like, what is that noise? I'm not going to check, you're going to check. But you get each player starts with 4 or 5 characters, And, they've all got like 2 hit points if you're lucky, 3, 4 hit points. Their stuff is the kind of stuff they would find around in their house, like a frying pan or a broom or a butcher's cleaver or whatever. And they go into a dungeon and there is death because there's 0 level characters, and the death is usually ridiculous and funny. But when you get that, if you are lucky enough to get one character out at the end who's now 1st level, that feels like he went through some stuff. And now he's earned that 1st level. And he's like, now I am a 1st level fighter. I love funnels. Aaron the Pendantic ran some funnels a couple years ago. They were so much fun and so funny. And I loved every character that I played through his funnels. I even had one that survived a funnel. It was Doris, the Pirate Queen. So yeah, I have loved the funnels, love DCC, love the randomness. Some of it's too random. Like there's some unnecessary randomness in DCC. Like, they've got the standard 1 through 4 through 1 through 20 dice, but then they also have some weird dice. Like they have a 16-sider and a 24-sider and a 30-sider. And those just don't feel like, why is that there? You had 30-siders rolling around, so you forced 30-sided tables in and D24 tables in because you made a 24-sider because you wanted to know if you could. And they even have two-sided dice, and you're like, dude, you can get 2-sided dice for free. It's called a nickel. Heads 1, tails 2, right? So some of the weird dice do feel gimmicky, but 90% of the games I played of DCC, the gimmicky weird dice never came up. And the few times they came up, it was pretty seamless. It was like, oh, roll a D24 instead of a D20, because I guess the system thinks that, like instead of advantage and disadvantage, you get to roll the higher dice, thus increasing the chances of a success. But really, bell curve, does it really increase the chances of a success? Am I more successful rolling a D24 than I am rolling a D20? I don't know, because that sounds like math, and I don't do math, but I don't know. It never really felt like it added anything. Occasionally there was he gets to roll a D24, but mostly it was like, I don't really feel any different. It just feels unnecessary. So if there's any one bad thing I could say about DCC, it's the weird dice. I have a complete set of the weird DCC dice sent to me by my very good friend, Aaron the Relentless, sitting on my shelves. I've never gotten to roll the D30, but it's sitting there because, he sent me the dice. I'm not going to say no. But yeah, so not a lot of news going on with Goodman Games, but I love them. So it's very hard for me to say anything bad things about them. Plus, they let you, they send you tons of free stuff. I think they're like, with the exception of Troll Lords and free stuff, these guys are really good about the free stuff. Look at this, resources. These are all things that they will send you to start the game, including quick start event things. And they've got their little road crew thing, and they'll send you stickers and stuff to set up games. So they really want people out there supporting their game, but actual news, I guess this is it. This is the last thing I heard anything about them really big being announced. And of course, they do like a new adventure every month. Strangely enough, a lot of the adventures involve crashed spaceships. And that is a big retro sci-fi fantasy trope, the Metamorphosis Alpha, going to Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, going back to Temple of the Frog, and the mention of technology and Blackmore and Greyhawk. So I think at least 2 of the 6 0-level crawls I've been through were crash spaceships. And you look at a lot of the 0-level adventures and you're like, yeah, crash spaceship. A lot of spaceships crashing into the home world of DCC. But I guess Purple Planet now explains it. I don't think DCC had a campaign world per se. I think they just made random adventures. Goodman also makes 5e stuff, though I see no mention of it higher. But they are probably most famous for their retro creations of classic 5e product, which sadly they're not making anymore. They did the complete Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, the complete Keep on the Borderlands, the complete Isle of Dread, these really amazing collections. Let's see if I can find them. They've also got the rights to Grimtooths, which are these amazing collections of really bizarre traps ranging from normal everyday pressure plate pit to some ridiculous Rube Goldberg level of just what the you look at some of the traps and you're like, why would somebody build that? That seems a lot of work. I mean, even if you're like a Sarasac from Tomb of Horrors and you're building it because you can, even some of these are like, why would I build this? This is even beyond me. This is totally ridiculous and pointless other than being cool. They've got X-Crawl Classics. We talked about X-Crawl Classics earlier this year. It was this weird game that came out several years ago about the idea that the entire planet is basically a dungeon and the player characters are basically Running Man. And the dungeon expeditions are televised. So it's like, you know, War World, going through a dungeon because you're part of a dungeon crew. Then they've got their 5e stuff and their Dungeon Crawl Classic stuff. They've got their level 0 funnels. They're also got the license to Dark Tower, which is another classic obscure adventure from the old days. They've got some stuff that they made years ago. Here's the DCC. Where's Mutant Crawl Classics? That's their science fiction post-apocalypse weirdness game. It's Gamma World, basically. Thunder the Barbarian. They're the different settings that they have for DCC. Doesn't even look like they mentioned the 5e stuff anymore on here. That's sad. Where's the stuff they made? I'll have to look into it. I don't see it on here anymore. I'll do a search. Yeah, it's not even in their search anymore. I guess Wizards stopped letting them use the rights because we know Wizards is re-releasing Keep on the Borderlands. So I guess they said, you can't have it anymore because we'll get the crappy version that Wizards is making instead of the really good version. So if you can find them, especially the Dwellers of the Undercity one, that Professor Dungeon Master is a huge fan of. They did these amazing compilations of what the adventure looked like when it originally came out, what the adventure looked like through the various incarnations, like if it was reprinted and stuff like that, and then what the adventure looks like under 5e. So you had the original Keep on the Borderland and Expedition to Adventure, and then you had like notes on how it evolved, like when it was released in 3rd, when it was released in 4th. So you almost had like a second version of Keep, and then you'd have a 3rd version. Here's Keep of the Borderland converted to 5th edition. And the books were like $35-40, big, hefty, 200-300 400-page tomes of just going through the history and the evolution of each of these classic adventures. And you know, there was one of those things where I was always like, I'll pick it up when I have extra money. And then when we found out that Wizards was not letting them do those books anymore, the prices just skyrocketed. And now it's like I could buy it, but when am I ever going to use it? But I mean, you know, Keep of the Borderland is kind of like a must own, you know, it's like if there's adventures you have to have to really understand. I mean, it's got Keep of the Borderlands has got to be number one, right? And of course, Tomb of Horrors. But yeah, I mean, there's just certain ones that are just iconic, you know, that just that explain a whole genre. And when we're talking about hex crawls and dungeon crawls and kingdom makers and Bronstein and all these words that we toss out every now and then, it all cycles back to Keep on the Borderland. So yeah. But sadly, I didn't pick it up when I had a chance, and now it doesn't look like it's available. So that is everything that is going on with Goodman Games. If you appreciate me shouting out these other obscure companies, let me know. And if you want to hear me keep doing it, I know a tabletop role-playing game from Wolf of Phototech wants me to keep doing it at least once a month. Otherwise, if you're like, dude, no, just go back to Wizards of the Coast. That's where the money is. You know, somebody mentioned to me the other day, how come, you know, this person has got 6K subs already and they just started and I've got like less than 1,000. And I'm like, because they're talking about 5e. And despite people saying that the 5e doesn't make the money anymore, it still does. I mean, you know, guy's already got 6K subs and he's got less than 100 videos. Yeah. So, there is something to say about bowing down to our 5e overlords. Sadly, that's nothing I'm ever going to do. So whatever, you get what you get with the OGGM. You either appreciate it or you don't. I don't know what to tell you. Have a great day. Stay safe out there. I'll talk to y'all later.
Roll the dice and ride the wave. Quest and dragons, the news we crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land. Monsters lurking in